Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Before we continue, tap that subscribe button so that we can continue. Okay, welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Grace Anyango, your favorite psychiatry nurse, and if you see me, you see another learning opportunity. So today what we are going to do is to talk about another mental disorder, that is psychiatric disorder rather, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So what is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is basically persistent inattention and hyperactivity present in more than one setting, that is basically school, home, and maybe at your workplace. What else? That is, so first we're going to talk about the diagnostic criteria. So there are three major, we'll talk about the diagnostic criteria, then we'll talk about inattention, and then we'll talk about hyperactivity. Yeah, so let's get into it. I'll be reading a lot of my pointers so that I can be able to explain everything properly so that each and every person can understand and get exactly what I'm saying, both the student or some caregiver or a teacher. Anyone who comes across this video will be able to understand everything in details and may be able to internalize everything. So let's get into it. So inattention, one of the diagnostic criteria according to DSM-5, remember that is the book we are using. One is persistent pattern of inattention and hyperactivity, impulsivity that interfere with functioning and development, right? So like, and not attentive enough, you're not attentive enough, and you're very hyper, like when maybe someone is talking to you, you can't pay attention, or you're not able to concentrate on anything that you are doing. So so in more than one setting, both at home and at school. Maybe you're cleaning, and before you finish cleaning, you've noticed someone else or something else. You are watching, you hear someone else, you see someone else passing, or you hear maybe a radio, and then your attention shifts swiftly. Yeah, that is what you're talking about. And what else? These symptoms have to be exactly what I've been saying, must be present in more than one setting, that is at school, at work, in the society, and at home. And again, another diagnostic criteria, that it has to be present before or by the age of 12. And another one is symptoms interfere with quality of social, academic, and occupational functioning. So that is therefore basically, that is the diagnostic criteria. You have to fit in that criteria first. Present in more than one setting, interfere with the normal functioning both at work and in the society. What else have I not said? Interfere with development and present in more than one setting. Good. So let's jump into inattention. Let's talk about inattention in a more understanding and in a more simple way. What is inattention? Often fails to give close attention to these details and makes careless mistakes. Like you are reading, something else happens next to you, your attention shifts like swiftly. So you're not able to give close attention into details. You might be at work, you're in a meeting, but you're not able to concentrate in that meeting because you may be looking at your colleague, how he's dressing. You see someone drinking water, that is where your attention goes. You see something wrong with the presenter, then that is where your attention goes. Like you can't concentrate on one thing. This makes you make mistakes, very petty mistakes, when you're not supposed to. And another one, has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks or paying activity, and you have difficulty remaining focused in a, like, this kind of people cannot stay in a 2-hour class without snapping out. Like you might be in class, you're teaching, but they're all over. The first 20 to 30 minutes they might be attentive, depending with the severity of their ADHD. they might be attentive, but the rest of the 1 hour, 30 minutes, paying attention will be a problem. They'll be noticing maybe a sleeping student, a student who's not really concentrating. They'll be focusing on someone else's glasses. That is, maybe if they have a classmate who wears glasses, they'll be focusing on the teacher, how he's talking, like very tiny things that don't really make sense at that moment. So they have a problem paying attention, and then often does not seem to listen when spoken to. Like all these things, you don't pay attention, you don't listen, you're being spoken to. Like this person, maybe they made a mistake maybe during their work, because they can't pay attention, so they make petty mistakes, and then you are trying to correct them. But when you are speaking to them again, their attention is out there, out and about. So that is also another problem. They can't pay attention when being spoken to, which is a problem. That's why we are saying it it creates problem in their occupational functioning. Another one, often does not follow through instruction and fails to finish schoolwork, house chores, and duties at workplace. Because, okay, this person might be carrying a file, taking to their boss. Maybe I'm giving an example, during work at the workplace, taking to their boss, and before they get to their boss's office, they notice something else, maybe at the receptionist. That is where their attention goes. Before they finish whatever that they're doing at the receptionist, they notice a walking client. Then they start talking to the walking client. Before they finish talking to the walking client, and a colleague comes in and they want to catch up, and before they catch up, then their attention snaps out very quickly. So they can't pay attention. So this is a problem even at home, when maybe you're washing the dishes, and before you finish washing the dishes, you suddenly remember you're supposed to cook. Before you finish cooking, you're supposed to make your bed. Before you make your bed, you're supposed to clean the house. Like they can't concentrate on one thing until they complete that specific task before they jump into the next task. uh, has difficulty organizing stuff and tasks. Exactly what I'm trying to explain. They try washing the dishes. Before they finish, they remember something else. They're supposed to do their homework. Before they're done with their homework, they remember that they're supposed to like sleep. Tomorrow is school. Before they even fall asleep, I'm supposed to clean the house. Like their attention shifts depending on how, like their co- uh, thought process and thought content. You see what I'm trying to say? Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort, because most of these people know they have a problem, because maybe they were diagnosed, that the psychiatrist or the therapist know, so they know themselves, and they know that if I take a task that requires a lot of my attention, I might not be able to deliver. So they try, some of them try to avoid this kind of task, because maybe they want to like deliver, but with their condition, it is they're not able to. And people who take up this tasks, they're not able to deliver, or they under deliver. So it's a problem. So they always avoid tasks that require sustained mental focusing. Often loses things necessarily for tasks or activities: school material, pencils, house key, car keys, all that, or your homework book, because maybe they were coming back home from school, and then they met some friends or fellow kids playing in some playground. They start playing, and before they know it, they forgot their assignment book at the playground. You see, now that's our problem. So basically, what I'm trying to say, when you think about someone with ADHD, and then from the definition, sorry, attention deficit. They have deficit. Don't think too much. Just think about, get it from the English part of it. Attention deficit. They're not able to pay attention. Look at it this way. When put yourself in a situation that you're not able to pay attention, how will you behave, or what might make you not pay attention? Yeah, and then you'll definitely get it. You're not able to listen, focus on something, you're disorganized. When you're being spoken to, you can't listen. When you're trying to organize things, you can't focus. Like, when you think about the English part of it, like attention deficit. Now this person has problem in attention, they have inattention. So you think about the English part of it, think about what inattention means, and then how someone with inattention will present. Yeah, so basically that's it. Then next we'll talk about hyperactivity. So it is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So you see, when attention deficit, you see this person, this is someone, this patient or this person, specific person, is inattentive. Now let's talk about hyperactivity. So when we talk about hyperactivity, what do we mean? Often fidgets with, or taps hands or feet, or squeeze on seat. Like, how am I like, when they're trying to do something, like they're hyperactive. Like, we're supposed to be done here, we move into the next, like they're always hyperactive. To them, things take so long to finish, so they'll be like you see, when you've lost concentration, maybe you've been in a very long lecture, and then you start fidgeting, you start like, okay, how do I say, like, okay, I really can't demonstrate because of the height of my camera, so I can't show you how like they tap their feet. But yeah, some of you can relate that they start tapping their feet, like someone who's anxious, like, you know what I mean. And then often leave seats in situation where remaining seated is expected. So like they're always on the go. They're in an exam room maybe, okay, and I was a little bit distracted, but let's continue and talk about hyperactivity. They can't remain seated when in situations whereby remaining seated is required. So I was giving an example with an exam room. You know, when in an exam room, physical exam room, you're supposed to remain seated until the exam time is over. If the exam takes 2 hours, until the end of 2 hours, you can't stand, you can't leave. Even though you're done, you have to leave to the end of you have to wait till the exam comes to an end, unless the examiner or the supervisor gives you the chance to leave the exam room. But this kind of people can't like keep keep up. They'll start living, pacing around, they leave their seats, they stand, sit, like they're not at ease. So yeah, often runs about or climbs in situations where it is inappropriate. Like I talked about pacing. Okay, there are times, okay, if you're in a situations, maybe someone is in the hospital, someone you love, and you're anxious waiting for the doctor's response, then at that situation, pacing around is makes sense. Like, you're anxious, it makes sense. But the situations whereby you're in a meeting, or you're in a classroom, or you're just at home, where running or climbing up the stuff, like you're climbing on your seat, on your walls, on your balcony, makes no sense. So you see, in some setups, these activities don't really make sense. Yeah, so that is what we mean by climbing in situation where it is inappropriate. Another one, often unable to play or engage in leisure activities quietly. Like I said, they're hyperactive, always on the go. So you try engaging them, maybe swimming, they'll be there in like 5 minutes, and then they want to jump into another activity or another leisure activity. Maybe you're watching a movie, you're supposed to like having your popcorns, you're having a good time watching them, but they can't wait till the end of the movie. Like, the movie to them, that movie is taking so long, they'd rather forward it so that you are done with the movie and focus on other thing. And for a movie, it's a storyline you have to go through if you're really serious about watching this movie. So they can't concentrate in this kind of situations. Or what other leisure activity? Maybe you're playing football or basketball. They're not patient enough to like play through the whole, I don't know. Okay, football takes like 90 minutes. They can't, like, that is too long for them, so they'll be like for a few minutes, then they want to jump into the another activity. Often blanks out an answer before the question is completed. So like maybe I'm in a class trying to lecture, or in an audience, someone in a crowd knows the answer. Maybe, let's give an example of two people. The two people know an answer. Like I ask, what is ADHD? Even before I finish ADHD, the person with ADHD will like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These are people who have deficits in the society, present in more than one setting. Yeah, but the most ideal way is lifting up your hand and waiting to be chosen to give an answer. So there's this person who knows the answer but decides to wait for their turn to speak. But there's this person who has ADHD who is not patient enough to wait for the question to be finished so that they can give their answer. So they just give the answer. So basically in most times they might give wrong answers, because what if I was asking what is ADHD according to this and this, or what is ADHD, or what are ADHD, the diagnostic criteria of ADHD, they'll just give that whatever they have had, the first three sentences that they have had, the question is stating that is what they will answer. So sometimes they might end up being wrong, when if they would have waited, they were patient enough to wait for the question to be asked, then they would have gotten the correct answer. So that is a disadvantage of one disadvantage that makes them have deficits, maybe in academic, occupational, or maybe at home. Has difficulty waiting for their turn in a line. There's always, every institution has order. You go to a hotel, maybe there's so many people and you need to queue it's very difficult for them to queue. They might end up harassing the customer care, the service provider, because to them waiting is not a word that they relate to. They have to be served according to their time. Or you go in a hospital, there are so many sick people, they need to like you need to like attend to the very sick people before you attend to them. But to them, like they're not patient enough. They have to jump the queue so that they may be served before the rest of the patients in the waiting day. See, yeah, in every setting, even at school, they can't queue, they can't wait for their turn. Like I just say, they can't wait to answer for their turn to answer the question. They'll just answer, or they just give ideas. They'll assume everyone who is in the queue, and then they'll go to the service provider, because to them, when they arrive is when they're supposed to be served. Often interrupts or intrudes in other people's conversation or games. Okay, let's say I'm a psychiatry nurse. There's another psychiatry nurse who has ADHD. I'll be here teaching. Of course, he or she knows something about ADHD, but they might not be able to let me finish my lesson. They'll be speaking over me. I'll be giving you a definition of hyperactivity or inattention, but for them, they'll be like, no, I'm starting to speak that they already speak over me. I'm trying to say like, yeah, someone with hyperactivity will not wait for that time. Yeah, I'm trying to say they'll not wait for that time, but they've already said it before you even say it. So, this setting will not be conducive even for the learners. It will not be good for even the learners. So yeah, that is just it. They always intrude in other people. Even if you're talking about football, maybe the way men like talking about football, or fashion for women, as long as they know something about what you're talking about, they will intrude and they'll start talking over you or over each other. So that is basically it about hyperactivity. So what else am I it is associated with other features, that is delayed in language, motor, or social development. They're not so specific to that, but they might be associated with this condition, like delayed in language, motor, or social development, emotional dysregulation, or emotional compulsivity, commonly occur in children and adults with ADHD. Like I said, that hyperactive, someone who is hyperactive is not someone who is able to sit back and go through their emotions before they react to something. They're always here and now, like, I'm feeling bad, I have to let it out, I'm feeling this way. And they're always prone to suicidal ideation because they're not able to process their emotions properly, or they're not able to process some situations properly. So basically, that's it. They're also prone to suicidal ideation. And according to DSM-5, the ratio of male to female is 2 to 1, and the gender that is more prone to suicidal ideations is a male compared to female. Why? Because one thing about females, they love talking, speaking out. A man will feel like being associated with people with ADHD is making him less of a man, so they might not be able to speak out, or they may not be able to seek for guidance or medication, or they might not be able to see a psychiatrist because to them it is embarrassing for a man to be having psychiatric conditions. So they'll feel in okay, I have the word but I can't really let it out. They'll feel less productive as a man is supposed to be. So then we also have unspecified ADHD. Unspecified ADHD is basically ADHD which does not fit the whole 4 diagnostic criteria. So they'll be unspecified. You might be displaying some of the diagnostic criteria, but not all the 4. So for you to fit into a category of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, for you to be diagnosed with ADHD, you have to fit the 4 diagnostic criteria. That is persistent pattern of inattention and hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning and development. Another, several inactive or hyperactive impulsive symptoms present before the age of 12, present in 2 or more settings, and then symptoms interfere with or reduce quality of social, academic, or occupational function. So you have to fit in the 4 diagnostic criteria for you to be diagnosed with ADHD. But if you have some and not all, then you'll be specified under unspecified ADHD because you can't fit the criteria. You exhibit some of the signs and symptoms of ADHD, but you can't fit the criteria of ADHD. So you have unspecified ADHD. So I hope we have all learned. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Don't leave before you hit the subscribe button, because next we will be talking about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and we all want to know and understand. And for the caregivers out there, remember, we are together we are psychiatry. Mental health requires a society, and we are together in this. And if you want someone to talk to or someone to reach out to on how to handle or manage someone with ADHD, I'm always here. You can always text in the comment section, and I'll always get back to you. I'll maybe give you uh, my email or something where you can reach out. So don't forget, we are together. And being having a mental disorder is not a way of stigmatizing someone. We are not supposed to stigmatize people with mental health disorders. We are all together in this community, and we all need each other in our community. So that's it for today. Bye, and remember to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. And wait for the next video, because here we learn and learn. So bye, that is all for today. See you in the next one, and I hope we learned something here and we have something to take home. So bye, see you in the next.